working just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Dolores y sin dolor. Recupera tu autoestima.
Ahora mis uñas.
Welcome back to Be Productive. Today we are talking about efficiency, but not just business efficiency, but efficiency when it comes to streamlining our processes and taxes. You know, we all have to pay taxes, and even though those can be overwhelming, there are some great tips to help us save money, but also, again, streamline those processes so that we can really show up at the highest level of productivity. And to help with this conversation, I have my friend Ryan Kahn, who's actually in our home studio in Houston. So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here and on air with you.
Yes, definitely. So, you know, people get overwhelmed with taxes and, you know, we hear that word and oftentimes people start to cringe, but, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. And what I would love to talk about first is for small businesses, entrepreneurs, leadership teams, what are some of the key tax saving tips that we need to be aware of?
That is a great question, and that is something that I really try to hammer home with our clients as we onboard them and begin that relationship with them. And it is so important that from the very beginning, you understand the difference in entity selection on how you're going to be taxed as a corporation or potentially as an individual. A lot of people think that just getting an LLC or an Inc. behind their company name is a tax status. Well, that's really just a legal recognition status that separates you legally from a corporation. The entity selection is what really determines how you're going to be taxed by your state and the federal government. So there are things like S corporations, C corporations, partnerships, joint ventures, Schedule C's, E's, and F's, and all of those different things have different implications to them. So let me give you a quick for example. If you don't make an entity selection, you and your partner go into business, then you are a legal partnership. And that comes with a certain tax liability. So if you go and you're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in your first year or so, you have to pay self-employment tax, and that's an extra 15.3% tax that you could have avoided or at least reduced dramatically. So why throw away $15,000, $30,000, $45,000 every year in your hardest beginning years when you can make an entity selection that avoids that tax or reduces it into a different category dramatically. So with that amount of money, most people realize that I could be tax efficient and invest back in myself, just to name one category.
Exactly. And, you know, it is so overwhelming just for the average person. And we hear so many different things. So being able to work with a strategist like yourself to really guide us through to make sure that we're doing the right things. Because like you said, we want to be investing that money that we've made. We want to invest it back in ourselves. So we've talked about, you know, knowing some of the entities and how that can help us with the deductions. But let's talk about optimization. How can we optimize some of these deductions to allow us to work at a higher level of productivity?
That is a great question. Let me tell you about the process that reveals the optimization. And so that process is we'll take anybody that comes in our door through an evaluation first. And what we do is we just use a vehicle metaphor. We pop the hood of your engine, your business that you're driving down the road. And you know that your business is driving, it's cruising, it's getting you from A to B, and it's an effective vehicle. But what you might not know is that your tires are out of alignment. You're only firing on 7 of your 8 cylinders. You're leaking some oil. You may have problems and not truly realize it. So we find a lot of people are just hemorrhaging money to the government, and we're here to stop the bleeding. So we look underneath the hood, we examine that engine and say, here's all of these tax categories that you can use. And let's say there's probably 14 or so primary categories that affect every business owner, and they're not all going to have problems in all 14 areas, but you may have these 5, and you may have these 7 or 6. So we create a custom plan that addresses each of them in a step-by-step process for you. Some of those areas are often going to be things like, reasonable and ordinary expenses. You may not realize that something that you're paying for personally could actually be a business expense because your industry considers that reasonable and ordinary. There are things like home offices and how to depreciate assets and what assets you can use. A lot of entrepreneurs are smaller family businesses, or at least started that way, and have family working in the business. So you can pay children for real work and actually offset tax pretty significantly. There's whole hosts of fringe benefits like health insurance, life insurance, cell phone stipends, fuel, gas, and mileage logs, and things like that can help not only you but your employees, and then create a tax-free shelter for you. So there's a lot going on, and that really needs to be examined by a professional in the field that can point them out to you, and then hopefully hold your hand through success in implementing the changes that reduce those tax areas.
So what I'm hearing is I could put my son to work for me and I can write off my shoes. Is that true? That's what I can do.
So that's go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's so good. And I know that I'm, joking around with you on this, but we do not realize these things. And again, based upon how we are set up on the front end, there are so many things that we don't know about. And again, another reason why we have to do our due diligence, because, having these itemizations, we could save us tens of thousands of dollars over the course of the time that we are in business. So again, another really important way to do this. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of staying productive. We have to make sure that we are planning, forecasting. So talk to me a little bit about how, looking at the tax efficiency model and how strategizing for this, how forecasting is really going to help us in effective planning, which then therefore will allow us to work at a higher level of productivity long term.
Yep, absolutely. That's paramount. What we do is I draw pictures, and believe me, I'm no artist, but I just don't let that stop me from drawing. When we go through some of those initial client meetings, I draw a picture of their future about how they're going up and to the right, and they're getting these gains, they're getting into profits, but their problems and their taxes are growing right along with their success, right? So we optimize that by driving those problems, those taxes, those inefficiencies to the ground, so that now there's a huge category between problems, tax, and your success, and that newfound value can be plugged back into you. So the really important part to this is when you go through the optimization steps, you identify what is right for you. And let me give an example of when we actually failed with one of our clients first, and how that rocked the boat, but we later brought them to success. We had a client that was a multiple business owner. They owned multiple entities and structures, and one of the things they did was flip houses in real estate. That was a side gig effectively for them. And so they came to us and had a huge tax liability problem, and they were shouting out, hey, reduce taxes, reduce taxes, reduce taxes. So we went in there and we proactively applied as much of the tax code as was legally available to their situation and drove their taxes to the ground. By doing that, they showed a lot less net revenue. So they appeared to gain every tax advantage in the book that was appropriate for them, and it drove their taxes to the ground. Well, now to flip houses, they need to be able to get a loan and a line of credit and be able to buy the house and then flip the house, and the banks were telling them no, because we listened to their goal of reducing tax, but didn't look at the big picture of how to, well, you're going to have to pay some tax. We're not going to take every single advantage in the book because that's going to drive your profits to the ground, and the banks don't like that. Those are mutually exclusive. Paying low amounts of tax, which are maximizing deductions and showing a low net profit, is usually the opposite of what a bank wants. A bank wants you to be making money hand over fist with powerful cash flow so they can loan you whatever money you want. And there's a balance to be had in there. That's where the optimization comes in. And without a tax planner, they would have either continued to pay exorbitant amounts of taxes they never really and truly owed, or they would have been super aggressive and never able to accomplish their dreams by flipping and building more houses. And an advisor dialed them in.
Yeah. What you're talking about today really hits on some really important topics. And I'm hoping that the people watching this are getting this, because when you are working with somebody like yourself, we need to look at those as strategic partnerships. And again, that they are our trusted advisors. And one of the things that you just hit on really strongly is the fact that your trusted advisor needs to know your long-term vision. That's something that I work on with my people, because you're absolutely right. So many people on the front end are like, save me money, get me as many tax credits and deductions as I can. but that's not going to put them in a position to really achieve the long-term goals. So this is why it's so critical to bring in a partner like yourself, sit down and really do not just one time, but every year, do those, I guess, audits together, again, sharing the goals, walking through the vision so that you can adjust it along the way so that everything is in alignment. So Ryan, thank you so much for all of these. Now, before we go, I want to share, because you have something exciting going on. You're actually getting ready to kick off your own show here at Now Media TV. So tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the free plug. It's called Pivotal Change, and it's all about getting entrepreneurs and business leaders to gather around a platform where they can get advice from strategic leaders, from entrepreneurs that have had successes and failures, and what to do and what not to do, and encourage you along the way to build your better growth in your business and in your personal life. And it airs at 6 p.m. Central Time on Thursdays.
That is fantastic. Well, you are just a wealth of knowledge. Every time I have you on, I learn so much. I take a lot of notes of things and questions that I need to ask, because again, we need to be, as business owners, we need to be proactive, in also sharing and asking the right questions, because like I mentioned, it is a partnership. So for all of you at home that are watching, again, take these notes, make sure you're asking these questions of your tax and financial professionals. And if you're looking for someone to guide you through, please reach out to Ryan. And Ryan, where's the best place that people can find you?
So you can find us at our phone number, 270-442-6688, and that actually gets you to both of the businesses. CS Business Consulting, which you see on the screen, which is csbizcon.com, csbizcon.com, and then the tax planning side of things is Shelton Associate CPA at wmscpa.com.
Love it. All right, thank you so much, Ryan. And for all of you watching, stay tuned, because we're going to be right back with more Be Productive.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, significantly lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and have seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the CGM Health Hotline now.
Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Godet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
¿Tiene un carro viejo? Usted podría donarlo y cambiar una vida. 1 de cada 8 mujeres es diagnosticada con cáncer de mama. El United Breast Cancer Foundation necesita su ayuda. Al donar su carro viejo o camioneta vieja, bien sea que funcione o no, puede ayudar a mujeres, hombres y familias afectados por el cáncer de mama. Además, recibirá una deducción de impuestos por su donación caritativa. Llama ahora al número que ves en pantalla para que venga a recoger el vehículo gratis.
Welcome back to Be Productive. Don't you just love technology? I mean, without technology, we wouldn't be able to do the shows that are bringing you so much value. What we know is technology, it can be our best friend. In many ways, all the systems that are there, it helps us to level up so that we can truly be more purposeful and productive in delivering our value and services. But we also have to understand that not all technology is created the same. And not all technology is going to help us achieve higher levels of profit and productivity. So to talk about some of the things that we need to be aware of in leveraging our technology is my good friend, Rob Tritt. So Rob, welcome to the show.
Hey, Clara, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. You know, I love having you here. You are a growth strategist coach. So you work with companies and you work with their executive teams to really make sure that they're making these high level decisions to, again, up their level of productivity and oftentimes the profitability that follows through that. So I know that you work with them in helping them make key quality decisions on the technology systems that they are using. So I want to talk a little bit about this. How can companies and leaders really leverage the technology that is out there so that they can truly set themselves up to gain higher levels of both profitability and productivity?
Well, I think where most companies, at least in my experience, struggle, where technology can really help them, is in the areas of project execution and communications. Anything that helps to make things make the process procedures more easier to follow, right? Is a great thing to have. I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase these. So the thing is that you have to understand what the project is going to entail. What are the requirements? And then is there a specific piece of software that is best fit for that project? Or does the company in itself need a specific tool that generally addresses everything that it does?
Right.
So understanding whether we need a specific piece of project or a general piece for the entire company, that's important. But like I said, the most important areas I think that most companies could really use technology to help them is in process procedures, especially in the areas of project execution and communications.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, you hit on something really key, this idea that you need to understand sort of the outcome first. You need to understand the project first, because I know even I have done this, you know, as a consultant, speaker, coach. You know, someone says, "Oh, this is the best database," or "This is what you need." And I go out there and I buy it, but then I find out it doesn't really work for me.
Right.
Whereas if I had someone like you sitting down and asking me the questions, going through a consultation with me, asking me the right questions of how do I want to use this? What are the key end results that I'm looking for? You could have saved me so much time, headaches, and a lot of money by going out there and trying all these things unsuccessfully to get to the end result. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say is, before you jump into the technology, do a little bit of due diligence with an expert like yourself, a consultant who's going to ask you the right questions and direct you in the right way to get the ones, because the technology that you're using, like you said, it's to help you streamline. But there are thousands of different programs out there that can streamline. The key is, what do you really need it to streamline you with first? And then go find those projects.
Right.
Yeah. So really key. Now, I also know with technology, the blessing and the curse of technology is it's changing every day and there's new ones popping up. So how can small business owners and executives sort of learn about the newest ones that are going to have the biggest potential for them, but also not get lost in all the bells and whistles and get off track with it? Because we can also lose productivity by always, having that squirrel syndrome where it's, oh, the bright new shiny object.
Yeah. Obviously technology is, a lot of it's going to be very industry specific.
Mm-hmm.
So, one company will need one specific type of technology, another type will need another type of technologies. So again, going back to when I say being plugged in, being plugged into the industry, and what technologies are being used to make advances within that industry.
Right.
So keep an eye on those kind of technologies is the most important thing.
Mhm.
And those are very specific to the industry. Like I said, there are a lot of different technologies that are really coming out. AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, those are big ones that have come out in the last couple of years that are really changing things. But there's a lot of other ones that are industry specific as well. There's biotechnology, there's nanotechnology, there's quantum computing, there's electric vehicles, there's 5G. There's so many different types of technologies, and these all are going to be changing specific industries. So
Yeah.
we need to keep plugged into our industry and read and listen and understand how the technology is going to affect the products and services that we offer, so that those products and services keep up with demand and technology, so they don't become technologically obsolete.
Right. And, this kind of leads me into another question to
Mhm.
just build upon what you just said is, with everything changing, you mentioned again, reading, going to conferences, learning,
Yeah.
are those the only way? Are there other ways that executives can sort of stay ahead and keep themselves in front of the ever changing trends?
Well, obviously there's Google, and I can read white papers, can do peer-to-peer groups, talk with friends within the industry. Just going out and talking to people. So those are very simple ways. But like you mentioned, conferences, that's the purpose of conferences. So that people in the industry can all get together and talk about things within that industry. So, and drink a lot, whatever. So, but but yeah, there are lots of ways to each industry, I'm sure, has their own methods for being plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever those methods are, but obviously internets and friends, those are general purpose things that anybody can do.
Right.
Regardless.
I always find that for me, being a part of sort of like a mastermind group has been very
Masterminds,
beneficial
yes.
to me, because sometimes, going to a conference, there's the expense, there's the time away, even though those are fantastic. And again, as a speaker, I need my conferences, but, having a mastermind group of your peers, oftentimes we share them, and that's where I learn about so many of the cutting edge technology that I need
Mhm.
is, from those other people that are, kind of doing the same things that I'm doing. So I think those can be powerful. I want to get your take on something. The idea of technology and relationships, because I'm a firm believer, and I know that you are too, in that human beings are social animals and we need the relationships.
Mhm.
For a long time, I was avoidant of a lot of technology because I was worried that it would take me away from relationships. But what I have found is that the technology has streamlined my processes to be able to free me up. So I actually have more time to build the relationships. Have you found that with a lot of the companies that you're working with, that it's allowing the leaders to build stronger relationships because all the back end work is kind of set up with the processes?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to say yes and no. I think it depends. You know, obviously being a process and procedure kind of person, I think if someone has designed their process procedures well enough that they can hand off a lot of that stuff to other people, and they trust their team to do the work, then absolutely the technology will in fact allow them to become more you know, to have more relationship interactions kind of stuff. However, if they've not designed those process procedures, then they're going to end up spending more time with the technology because it's not being done efficiently to begin with. So,
but that's where you come in. You're able to come in, and that's what you coach them through, is making sure that, again, their processes are dialed in. So I would imagine that if somebody watching this is feeling like their processes are not dialed in, or maybe they're getting away from the time to build the relationships, this is a perfect time to have a consultation with you, because you might be able to help them tighten up those processes.
absolutely, yeah, and you know, having a great tool to document the process procedures, then we can hand off things and we can just let our team do our thing while we go out and grow the business.
Absolutely. So speaking of consultations, I know that you always are open to talking with people. So if somebody does want to have a consultation and maybe learn more about how you can help them level up their profitability and productivity, where's the best place for people to find you?
Well, I'm always on LinkedIn, so you can always shoot me a message on that at Rob Tritt. You can also call me at 770-256-8216. My website is profitpartnergroup.com. And my email address is rob@profitpartnergroup.com.
Beautiful. Well, Rob, the biggest thing that I took away today is the idea of, again, don't just jump into the technology, do your due diligence first. And for those of you that are watching, I really want to hit on that, because it is so easy to just want the magic pill. You've got to do your due diligence. So sitting down with a professional like Rob and his team, being able to, again, vet what it is that you're really looking to achieve, because at the end of the day, we aren't going to be able to build the profit if we don't have the partnerships to help us make sure that we're making the right decisions. So stay tuned, because we're going to be coming right back at you with even more Be Productive.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company, the time you spend with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
Artritis, inflamación, reuma, dolores articulares, dolores musculares, dolores, muchos dolores, una solución. Be Miracle, el milagro de vivir sin dolor. Hace más de 2400 años, los griegos descubrieron los poderes desinflamatorios de la apitoxina, el veneno de las abejas, que es 100 veces más poderosa que la cortisona, pero sin sus efectos secundarios. Be Miracle, la fórmula original con apitoxina 100% natural, el milagro de vivir sin dolor.
Yo me acostumbré a vivir con dolor y con alta presión. Fue como un milagro. Empecé a tomar la capsulita de veneno de abejas y se me calmó el dolor, mi presión está normal y hasta el carácter me cambió.
A nosotros nos gustaba pasear, caminar, bailar, ir a la discoteca. pero nos llegó la artritis y nos lo arruinó todo. Y ahora, tomando una capsulita diaria del veneno de la abeja, volvemos a disfrutar de la vida.
Y gracias a este milagro podemos ser felices.
B-Miracle frena la artrosis, rejuvenece las articulaciones, desinflama y elimina el dolor. Ya basta de dolores musculares, ya basta de dolores articulares, ya basta de sufrir.
Con una cápsula diaria del veneno de abejas, volví a vivir sin dolores.
B-Miracle. Llame ahora y reciba 2 meses de B-Miracle en oferta especial. Ordena 2 y recibe 3 meses de tratamiento. Pero si llama ahora mismo con su orden, recibirá la crema B-Miracle de acción inmediata completamente gratis. Para ese dolor rebelde y localizado que a veces aparece. Pero tiene que marcar ahora. B-Miracle. Una cápsula por día. El milagro de vivir sin dolor toda la vida.
Soy un no abogado portavoz representando a un equipo de abogados que están listos para ayudar a personas que han padecido de lesiones o han sido agraviadas. Si estuvo involucrado en un accidente de automóvil o motocicleta, tiene derechos y es posible que pueda recibir compensación monetaria por su sufrimiento. No acepte cualquier oferta de las compañías de seguros hasta que hable con un abogado. Puede ser representado por alguno de los mejores abogados de lesiones personales del país. Abogados de sobrenombre que jugarán su reputación para ganar su caso. Y si no ganan, no cobran. Por lo tanto, si ha sufrido de un accidente de auto o motocicleta, llame ahora y descubra hoy mismo de qué tipo de compensación puede tener derecho. Recuerde, contamos con algunos de los mejores abogados de lesiones personales del país, listos para luchar por usted. Y si no ganan su caso, no cobran. Llame a la línea de ayuda legal ahora mismo.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Welcome back to Be Productive. I hope you have a pen and paper ready because we are talking about money, money, money. We know we want to be able to grow and we want to be able to grow that bottom line. So we are getting ready to talk all about financial management for growth. And to help me with this conversation, I am bringing back my friend, Rob Tripp. Rob, welcome to the show.
Hi, Clara. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is going to be a fun conversation because, you know, everybody wants to make money. And we want to make sure, again, we are setting ourselves up to do this the right way. So this is something that you work with companies on day in and day out. So talk to us a little bit. You know, we're talking about financial management practices. You know, why are they so crucial in sustaining financial growth for a company?
So they're crucial. It all comes back to the same advice probably every business owner has heard over and over again: know the numbers. You've got to know your numbers. And unfortunately, most business owners just don't. If they don't know the numbers, they're flying blind. They're guessing. You know, so that's going to be the biggest thing, is to understand what the numbers are, because the story, every decision that you need to make is going to be in knowing the numbers. If expenses, like expenses, for instance, if you don't know how much your company is making, if you don't know how much your company is spending, then how are you going to be able to guide the direction of the company? In that case, you're not really, you're not investing, you're gambling. And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to gamble. Everything should be expensive. When we spend money, we should be looking at it. How are we going to get return on investment? Not gambling. If you want to gamble, go to Las Vegas.
Exactly.
Go start a
We need to
business.
be smart. We need to be smart. And like you said, to measure and track everything so that as we are taking those calculated risks, as we are investing in the growth of our business, we're doing it in the right ways. One of the things that we also know is that the environment changes each and every day. And as a company grows, it's also about this word sustainability. We don't want to have this dynamic that I refer to as the peaks and valleys, where we're up, we're down, we're up, we're down. That causes a lot of stress. And again, it's about creating that long-term sustainability. So how can companies start to, create a foundation of longer-term sustainability, especially during uncertain times?
So yeah, looking at your sales, understanding the product mix, where those products and services, how they sell throughout the year. If there are peaks and valleys, then we want to implement strategies to offset those things. A great way of doing that is putting in place products that aren't vulnerable to deviations in the market or are seasonal. So let's figure out what products we can put in place to offset the ups and downs of some of those other products.
Yeah. It's so important. And I started doing this in my own business. I was noticing that my speaking business especially is very busy September till about February. That's when people again have their slower times. They want to do the business planning. So I had to really look at what are some things I can do to leverage my skill sets in the summer months. So creating some, mid-year strategy sessions and some other things that were going to be a little more easily attainable for people to get to in the summer months so that again, it can be more sustainable. And I think all companies can do this. And you're right, you may have some projects that are some products that could be seasonal, but maybe bringing in some tried and true run so that again, you can have more of that sustainability. And if not, leading into the next thing I want to ask you about is this thing called budgeting. And people don't always like to look at the budget. They just want the budget to take care of itself. But again, we have to be strategic with our budget because that's also a big consideration. So talk to us a little bit about budgeting and the role that that plays.
Yeah, budgeting and I'm going to say pairing that with forecasting properly, understanding where the money is going, how we're going to spend the money, and looking at how much we can afford to spend throughout a quarter or a year, whatever. That's obviously very important because we can't spend money that we don't have, and so it's important that the businesses, business owners, they understand how much money they have coming in and how much money they actually have going out. So keeping track of your expenses, and then managing the income based on those expenses, and also obviously reviewing expenses regularly to make sure that those expenses aren't getting out of hand. Look for categories that are growing faster than other categories, or expenses overall are growing disproportionate to the income. And so by budgeting, we will understand the ins and outs of the money and can properly plan for that expenses.
And from your expert perspective, how often should a business owner be reviewing their budget?
Well, I say all the time, constantly, but realistically, at least monthly.
Yeah.
They should be able to basically recite their, the ins and outs. If someone asks them, what is your budget for this week? They should know.
No. Yeah. Again, the numbers tell it all, and we have to be able to do that. Now, what would you say, when it comes to budgeting, forecasting, and, doing these things, what would you say are maybe some of the biggest pitfalls or, missteps that company leaders make when it comes to these areas?
The biggest pitfall is just not doing it. It's not a lot of fun to do these kinds of things. The work that we need to do in order to keep the company focused and on track is not always a lot of fun. So it can be tedious, and business owners, they like to keep their hands in what they enjoy doing.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's important to understand how the money comes in and out. Just a regular review of the books, going through them on a regular basis and understanding is really the most important part.
It is. And again, if you want to have that long-term sustainability, you have to do these things. And like you said, just setting aside, maybe a few hours each month, to just kind of make it part of your system. You can't just delegate it out to somebody else because, again, at the end of the day, you're the owner. You're the one, the buck stops with you. So you've got to be a part of it. You have to review it because you can only grow when you really have all the information. So
Yeah.
Rob, I love everything that you have to say. You really have a really strong hold on these. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been working with, companies, leaders, and helping them with this type of strategies?
10 years.
Yeah.
I've been with my company. That I've had a company in place, and so we work with professional services businesses to help them with their operational needs. We also work with help them with their IT to some degree. We certainly help with that. Their sales, their marketing, and then we also want to help them achieve their goals. So we put projects in place to help them achieve the goals that they had in place or that they wanted for themselves when they started the business. And then we can also set up a framework for them that they can use to grow the business without the stress and frustration that they may have had in the past.
Perfect.
So I'm on LinkedIn, of course. You can find me at Rob Tripp. My website is projectpartnergroup.com, and you can call me at 770-256-8216 or email rob@profitpartnergroup.com.
Love it. Rob, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you that are, watching and following, you've got to look at the numbers. Just like Rob was saying, it's all about tracking and measuring. You are not going to know if you're going in the right direction without really looking at the results that you're having, because you might have a great month, you might have a great season, but you need to understand why. Because if things are working, we want to make sure we understand why so we can keep things going in the right direction. So just don't take things for granted. Don't just leave things up for chance. Take control of the situation. Get yourself an expert like Rob to be able to look over everything at that high level and make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to win long term and to create that sustainability. Because at the end of the day, it's all about being productive. Stay tuned because we'll be right back for more.
Are you drowning in a sea of medical records, spending countless hours in the documentation? Picture this, a cutting-edge AI-powered tool designed specifically for the healthcare industry that streamlines your workflow, reducing time and effort spent on tedious medical record research. Introducing Data Dive, your lifesaver in medical record review. Say goodbye to manual data extraction and hello to efficiency. Our advanced artificial intelligence delves into vast medical databases, swiftly extracting relevant information so you can focus on what truly matters, patient care. Imagine having a virtual assistant at your fingertips, tirelessly working to compile comprehensive medical histories, treatment plans, and diagnostic reports. Data Dive not only saves you time, but ensures accuracy and completeness in your documentation. Data Dive adapts to your unique needs, learning from your preferences, constantly improving its performance. It's like having a dedicated research partner that evolves with you. The future of healthcare is here. Artificial intelligence meets medical expertise. Partner with Data Dive and embrace a world where your valuable time is spent caring for patients, not drowning in paperwork. Your patients deserve it.
Este es Juan. Juan quiere su televisor nuevo y esta noche viene a su casa para llevárselo. Pero no si su hogar está protegido por Seguro en Casa. Disfrute la posibilidad de monitorear toda su casa las 24 horas del día, 7 días a la semana. no solo por robos, sino también por incendios, monóxido de carbono, inundaciones y emergencias. Una solución inteligente que combina la seguridad del hogar con la automatización y le permite controlar, monitorear y modificar su hogar y sus necesidades de seguridad para adaptarse a su estilo de vida. Arme, desarme o verifique el estado de su sistema desde cualquier lugar, en cualquier momento. Comience a disfrutar de protección integral para el hogar por tan solo $27.99 al mes, incluyendo equipos de seguridad gratis por un valor de $850. Llame ahora mismo e incluiremos esta tarjeta de regalo Visa de $100 como nuestro obsequio especial para usted. Llame al número que ve en pantalla ahora mismo para proteger a su familia.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Welcome back to Be Productive. One of the things I hear from people all the time when I lay out strategies, systems, and tools to them is I hear, yeah, but how is that going to work for me? This is why I always talk about one size does not fit all. We can have some basic parameters, but when you are working with a true trusted advisor, they understand how to take this knowledge and tailor it to your needs. When we are talking about information systems and more importantly, the protecting of all these information systems that we have, we want to make sure that we have something that is designed and tailored specifically to us. So to talk about how we can use some of these items and use them in whatever industry you're in is my friend Greg Schaefer. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm really excited about this conversation because, you do so much with helping people protect their intellectual property, to protect their systems, and to guard against, people breaking in and getting hacked. And I think sometimes people think, oh, I don't need that. My company's too small, or I don't really feel that I need that in my industry. And one of the things that I've learned from talking with you for so many of our segments is that you really can work with people across the gamut. So I would love to talk about why is this so important and how can the services that you provide really vary and cover every different industry platform that's out there?
The basics of cybersecurity and information security overall are constant across all industries. And a good way to illustrate this is that think about vehicles on the road. So you have cars and trucks and SUVs and semi-trailers and police cruisers and motorcycles and so on. So they're all different there, but each one of them has a common element. They all have tires. So a tire is the common element, just like cybersecurity, where we have some common elements, like, for example, encryption in transit, making sure it's scrambled when you send it across the internet, regardless of the industry. Now, what we do, therefore, is that we consult businesses to build information security programs focused on frameworks first and industry compliance second, rather, because the frameworks can be more adaptable to different regulations. So one framework, we've talked about this before, is the NIST cybersecurity framework. It's great for small and mid-sized businesses. If you align well to NIST CSF, you're going a long way already to being compliant with some of the additional requirements that is specific for your industry. And then the strategy kind of diverges a bit based on the type of data that's involved in the mission of the industry. So let me give a couple of examples here. In banking, well, that involves obviously financial data. That's the data that's involved. And the mission is to facilitate financial transactions and build wealth and that sort of thing. And then healthcare, on the other hand, involves personal health information and the mission of saving lives and maintaining health. So because of this, different industries have developed different regulatory requirements.
Mhm. Yeah, that is, fascinating. I love the analogy you used about the different vehicles, but that the tires. And I think that's a really great way to lay it out. You just gave a couple of examples, but I would love to hear just from your personal being. You've been doing this for many years. What are some examples that you have of working with some different industries?
Well, I could provide many, but in the interest of time, I'll just do a couple. I'll first of all talk a little bit more about financial institutions, banks and credit unions. So they are beholden to what we call the Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council, or FFIEC. It's a lot of letters there, but FFIEC mandates certain requirements are met by banks and credit unions based on their inherent risk. And what does that mean? Well, that means that it's dependent upon the size and the services that these organizations offer. So the size of the assets, for example, that the bank or credit union has, or if they provide international wires, those sorts of services. And there's also, like, depending upon their location, sometimes if they're over a large geographic area, that presents more risk. So the bank or the credit union then must meet standards based on that inherent risk, and it's a level from 1 to 5. And all banks and credit unions are examined by regulators that fall underneath the FFIEC. You probably have heard of some of these. So in banking, we've got the FDIC, they insure your deposit. Same thing with the OCC, which is the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And then for credit unions, it's the NCUA. Now, another example is probably even more related to a lot of the small businesses and medium businesses out there are taking payments via credit and debit cards. If you do that, you have to be compliant with Payment Card Industry's Data Security Standard, or PCI DSS, because we love acronyms. And there are two different categories there. One is the service provider category, which I'm going to put off to the side for a moment. And then one is the merchant, which is more applicable probably to most of the businesses out there. The merchant one is where you actually take the card. Now, depending upon how many transactions that you do per year will determine what level of self-attestation that you have to do. So it's kind of similar to the banking thing based on your inherent risk. If you're really, really, really taking a lot of transactions, you may have to actually be audited. Now, don't look at the self-attestation as being a way out of having a solid information security program just because you don't have somebody else examining or auditing you. Remember that you're still responsible for your information no matter what. And you do not want to go light on these self-attestations, because worst case scenario, you have a breach, you say that you were compliant, and they find out, they being like one of the card providers like Visa, finds out that you weren't, you're going to lose the ability to take your cards, and that's going to severely impact your business. Now, interestingly enough, some organizations have multiple challenges here, and this is why the framework idea really helps. Some banks and credit unions, for example, may be required to be PCI compliant, both as a merchant and a service provider. So just like clinics and personal health information.
Yeah, Wow. I really hope you're not going to quiz me on any of these acronyms that you just went over, because I've already lost them all out of my head. But so many things. And that one example you gave about the credit cards, again, if you're not compliant, you could lose the ability to take those types of payments. And what would that do? I know that I've been at places and I'm like, oh, I have MasterCard. And they're like, no, we only take Discover or something. So I think it's really important that we do this. Now, I would imagine that many people think I can't afford to bring a service like this on. They're thinking they're not a huge corporation, they're not a huge global company. And even though you work with all different companies, you really do specialize in the smaller to mid-sized businesses. And you actually do this all virtually. So tell us a little bit about how bringing somebody on virtually can be just as helpful and maybe even more beneficial than having somebody on staff and on site for you.
Well, many virtual CISOs, including us, we've worked with clients across multiple industries, and this allows us a much deeper perspective of information security overall than if we focused on a single industry. Now, there are some folks that focus on a single industry and they're great at what they do there. But for us, coming from varied backgrounds, it also has the benefit of we can train each other. Like, for example, our senior virtual CISOs, just taking a few, for example, one has a deep healthcare background. One is very much an expert with government contracts. And then I'm more of a financial services expert. But we learn off of each other. And therefore, we become a better resource to different clients across all different industries.
Yeah.
A well-rounded virtual CISO can address many different industries that maybe don't fall neatly into those buckets.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, if we align to a standard framework such as NIST CSF, then map to the industry-specific needs, that's where the virtual CISO adds value, because we're all experts in doing those mappings. And that's another reason why I also advise folks that carefully vet your virtual CISO potential provider. Make sure that they have the ability to work mapping different regulations and standards to different frameworks.
I really think that's a key indicator that you hit on, the idea that you are able to bring in your partners. And again, you need to have people who have the background in what it is that you need so that you have all those areas covered. Just like, surgeons have their specialties, a lot of the virtual CISOs do the same thing. So again, really doing your due diligence. Now, one of the things I love that you do is you really do a lot of work on the front end in that intake process, because again, you want to make sure you're bringing on the right people and that people know the best fit for them. And one of the ways that you do this is you always offer a free consultation with them. So if somebody did want to book a free consultation and learn more about the processes and the systems that you can provide, what's the best way for people to find you?
The best way is to go to our website at vcisoservices.com. There's a button on the front page which says something along the lines of book a consultation. And that'll give 15 minutes with myself or one of our senior virtual CISOs. And we can then discuss your potential needs there. And if you don't want to do it that way, you can fill out our contact form, or we have a phone number on the website too that you can call, and we'll get right back to you if we're not in the office at that time.
Perfect. Well, great. Thank you so much. And for all of you that are watching, these partnerships, sometimes we don't think about them. When we're putting together our business plans and looking at the trajectory of our business, we don't think about needing somebody on the security system side. But you know what? They are going to help you. And we need to put these plans into place because, again, the name of the show, it's all about being productive. So stay tuned, because we'll be right back and we'll be bringing you more Be Productive.
Soy un no abogado portavoz, representando a un equipo de abogados que están listos para ayudar a personas que han padecido de lesiones o han sido agraviadas. Si estuvo involucrado en un accidente de automóvil o motocicleta, tiene derechos y es posible que pueda recibir compensación monetaria por su sufrimiento. No acepte cualquier oferta de las compañías de seguros hasta que hable con un abogado. Puede ser representado por alguno de los mejores abogados de lesiones personales del país. Abogados de sobrenombre que jugarán su reputación para ganar su caso. Y si no ganan, no cobran. Por lo tanto, si ha sufrido de un accidente de auto o motocicleta, llame ahora y descubra hoy mismo de qué tipo de compensación puede tener derecho. Recuerde, contamos con algunos de los mejores abogados de lesiones personales del país, listos para luchar por usted. Y si no ganan su caso, no cobran. Llame a la línea de ayuda legal ahora mismo.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.